There we go. Hey guys, sorry about the first live that I had scheduled and situated. YouTube just kept loading and just didn't go live, so I had to reset it. So here we are. Here we are. I was shooting for 7, but the editing for all of the shorts, I needed to get that done. I wanted to get it done so bad. So all of the shorts are up now. But to give you kind of an idea, there's 12 zodiac signs, run about 20 minutes, give or take each. For each 20-minute segment, it took me about 2.5, sometimes 3 hours to go through all of the editing to condense that reading down to like 3 minutes without, ruining the integrity of the reading or myself as a reader, because y'all know I don't like to cut messages. So I had to try and squeeze all the important stuff in. So I appreciate you guys being patient when we got that going. Also, I am on TikTok now. All of those shorts are also on TikTok. But for me to go live on TikTok, I need 50 followers. So if you're on TikTok, follow me over there so that I can also go live on TikTok, because I think it'll be fun. But we are going to get into June, the cosmic currency for June. I've got tons of little notes here that we are going to go into, and we're going to break it down on, like a day-by-day basis as we go through the energies of the different transits for June. Now, pre-June, these are the things happening at the very end of May that you guys may have felt and is leading up to the build, right? So Saturn entered Aries on May 25th. That was the day before the new moon in Gemini. And Venus and Aries exact trined Mars in Leo that day. The new moon in Gemini, which was the 26th, 27th, depending on where you are in the world, Mercury entered its home sign of Gemini in trine to Pluto retrograding in Aqua. On May 29th / the 30th, Mercury 𝐏𝐫𝐵 the sun. And on May 30th to the 31st, the moon in Leo opposed Pluto retrograde in Aquarius while trining Saturn and Neptune in Aries. For those of you who have stronger significant Leo placements or Aqua placements, you might have had some really deep things come up for you to look through and heal through, right? That you would have to start reflecting in there and kind of dissecting maybe where your own belief systems need to be adjusted, right? Moving forward. The big thing that started at the end of May that we're still feeling and have yet to feel the peak of is the Jupiter square Saturn energy that's already being felt. That energy is going to be felt most strongly from May 27th through July 4th, and it's peaking on the 15th of June. Uranus and Taurus square Mars and Leo is peaking at the same time. So if you guys go through all those shorts, or if you watch the all signs for June, right, if you just simply watch the long form video, you will have noticed that all of the signs, no one really was exempt. All of the signs were dealing with some crazy shit mid-month. And that has a lot to do with it, right? Those two really big and powerful squares, Jupiter, Saturn, and Uranus to Mars. When Uranus squares Mars, know that there are certain things in the reality that are likely going to be severed, and that there's going to be this insane or radical out of the blue drive to change things. With Jupiter square Saturn, anything tied to abundance or luck or high manifestation requires divine order. So you really can't cut corners as far as like the healing goes or what it is you're supposed to be doing. So with 2025 being a reset year and us being in the middle of huge transitions, it is best to look at the long game and ask yourself, Is this something that I can commit to for the next 30 years? If you cannot continue to live in the energy you're in right now for the next 30 years, this energy is calling you to cut it, right? It's calling you to cut it. Why drag it out? Saturn and Jupiter, Uranus and Mars are like, challenge accepted. Let's cut the shit out, right? So that's the big energy leading into June. June 1st through the 3rd. Venus has an exact conjunction with Eris and Chiron at 25 degrees Aries, and it's trining the moon and Mars conjunct in Leo with Jupiter's sextile, right? Jupiter is sextiling these things, and the moon transits into Virgo. So if you are a Virgo moon, you're having your lunar return in these first 3 days of June. With Venus and Eris conjunct Chiron, trine the moon and Mars, sextile to Jupiter in Gemini. This is major for self-love healing, throwing a curveball in it. It's also a divine test of emotion when it comes to the version of self that you're proud of, right? Are you looking in the mirror and like who you see? Are the facts of the reality, right? When you look at the face value facts of everything, where you are, who you're with, what you're doing. It is great to analyze what is in alignment, and what does feel good and doesn't feel good is pretty clear during these 3 days, right? The 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Hey, Lala, how you doing? So with this energy, right, opening June, it's probably some of the best energy that we're actually going to have opening it, because after that, the closer we get to those squares, it does feel crazy. It does get intense. Okay. So just be in anticipation, right? Just know that if things are getting crazy for you, you are not alone. It's going to be a little crazy for everybody. And I think a huge tell with the alignment that you're in, if you know you're on the right path, you're going to have a smile on your face moving forward, because you do know what does need to get cut away and what is not serving that love you have of the self, for the self, especially with Chiron and the conjunction. Like, you're going to feel that martyring of the self pretty clear, and it wouldn't feel good. And so there's this drive to fix the emotional state that you're in. And I think that moving forward, especially as we get into the 4th, that's possible. So on the 4th, the moon does transit into Libra, opposing Saturn and Neptune in Aries, and trine Pluto in Aquarius. When the moon transits into Libra, especially in opposition to Mars or Saturn and Neptune, right, in Aries, if you are in this, let's keep the peace, let's just keep the peace for now, and you're slipping back into that sacrificial energy or that martyring energy where you're kind of ignoring your own feelings in favor of the whole, that's going to be really uncomfortable. So much so that you may be looking to indulge in certain things in order to escape what you need to do. It's going to become, if it hasn't already, really clear that something needs to give and something needs to change with the trine to Pluto. Because even though it's trines, right? Even though it's trines, Pluto is still uncomfortable. Okay. Pluto is intense. And it's trying to get you in this higher vibration, right? This Aquarian vibration where you can hold some compassion for yourself and understand that when you act in alignment with what makes you feel good, that it actually aligns everybody else with you, right? Let's see. Give me 1 second, guys. Sorry about that. I do the 2-minute buffer for like subscribers and stuff in the chat to try and keep the trolls out, but every once in a while they pop in there. So yeah, on the 4th, just be aware, if you're in that people-pleasing energy, you might feel the need to indulge or kind of check out a little bit or escape a little bit, whether it's going on a shopping binge or maybe having a little too much to drink, or if you're a smoker, you know, maybe you smoke a little too much weed, right, to try and get out of the energy that you're in, if it's in misalignment. And it will become clear, right? It will become clear that you are not in the vibe to manifest your highest good, and that you really do need to think about the greater good in the long run, right? Maybe it's not just about what's good in the moment and trying to keep the peace in the moment. It's like putting a Band-Aid on a gash. You know, you kind of need to take closer care of it. It might need a little more attention than just a Band-Aid, right? You can't just have an argument and let's pour a drink and let it go away. It requires more. And sometimes acting in your highest good, in alignment with your own happiness, more often than not, just sets up everybody else to find their own, right? That would be the mirror of things. That's on the 4th. On the 5th of June and into the 6th, Venus enters her home of Taurus, sextile Jupiter at 29 degrees Gemini. Exact Mercury in Gemini sextile Mars and Leo is also going on, and the moon transits into Scorpio, opposing Venus and Taurus, and Mercury, and trine Mercury and Jupiter in Gemini. So there's some good stuff going on the 5th and the 6th, and then there's some challenging stuff going on the 5th and the 6th. Venus being home in Taurus, anybody with strong Taurian energy is going to feel that immediately. It's going to feel so lovely to be in Taurian energy. You might actually feel more inclined to clean your home or clean your car, different things that you consider yourself or owned by yourself. You may also feel the need to, you know, spruce up your appearance even. You know, you might be guided to change your hair or put your makeup on for the first time in a while. You know, this is going to be really positive for Taurian energy, especially with the sextile to Jupiter at the end of Gemini as it starts making its way into Cancer. With the exact Mercury in Gemini sextile Mars and Leo as well, I think that what you need to do as far as forward movement, as far as being like the ruler of your life, I think you're going to be in that mindset. I think you're going to be in that mindset of, I create my experience and I own the fact that if things are not working out, it's because I can choose better, right? I can choose better. That kind of epiphany moment where you know that if you look at things for face value and what it is, your best thinking and best choices got you to where you are. And if you've got better thinking and can make better choices, it's going to get you to where you're going. With the moon transiting into Scorpio, opposing Venus in Taurus, and trine Mercury and Jupiter conjunct in Gemini. The moon in Scorpio could potentially take it too far. You know, like you can have too much of a good thing. So where Venus and Taurus might get really comfortable and really lax and really chill in her element, Scorpio moon can definitely overindulge and or is going to be picking up on people and their energy who don't necessarily like your glow or like your shine or like that comfortable feeling you have with yourself. I think those who are seeking to disrupt you emotionally may become obvious. All right. That's the 5th and the 6th. On the 7th, the sun in Gemini exacts septiles to Chiron in Aries. Now, septiles are a harmonic. They're the 7th harmonic, which is a divine intervention type energy. So with the sun in Gemini, it's almost like spirits looking at the facts and how you're maybe not quite fully looking at the self and how the self is martyred, right? If you're having a difficult time with the oppositions and things that have been going on the last few days, the divine is kind of stepping in, which is okay if you're comfortable with your alignment. It's not going to feel okay if you're not in the right alignment. You're going to feel maybe like you need to take a step back and look at things more logically. Okay. Maybe you do need to take a look at things more logically on the 7th. From the 8th to the 10th, this is pre-full moon in Sag energy. The 8th to the 10th, Mercury passes Jupiter and enters Cancer. Saturn and Neptune in Aries quincunx Pluto and sextile Pluto in Aquarius. Venus in Taurus square Pluto in Aquarius. The moon is still in Scorpio, and Mars in Leo then transits to Sag. Transits. Did I put transits? I meant to put trine. Trine Sag and trine Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Okay. From the 8th to the 10th. Let me pull it up. I'm going to pull it up on my phone because I don't like the way I worded that. So I want to give you guys exact information. Give me 1 second. June 8th. Okay. Mercury passes Jupiter, enters into Cancer. Saturn and Neptune in Aries are sextile Pluto. Venus in Taurus is squaring Pluto. And the moon in Scorpio squares Mars and Leo. And then transits into Sag, trining Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Okay. When Mercury enters Cancer, all the things that we've been addressing, like looking at the reality for what it is, right? Taking a penny for face value. We're going to start to get into our feels about it because you can only analyze it so much and then you have to process the feelings. Having it square Saturn and Neptune, you may feel like you can't speak on certain things. And it might be because who you want to talk to is inebriated. You know, who you want to talk to is checked out or in some kind of delusional state of self. Maybe they have some grandiose view of themselves. Maybe they look at themselves like the hero or the savior, but they're also the tyrant or the controller, you know, so there could be some kind of resistance to the feelings that you're moving through. or the feelings that come up, right, during these 3 days. In sextile to Pluto in Aquarius, the bright side of the square is that it's only going to become more clear the vibration that you want to be in, and if it is or isn't possible with the reality that you're in, right? With the Venus square to Pluto, don't drop your cell phone in the toilet. Okay, there are certain things. I may or may not even be able to go live that day. The internet may be completely fucking wonky. Taurian energy. I mean, on a grander scale, we could even hear about things like earthquakes and stuff like that, you know, on a worldwide scale. But if you have not addressed everything prior to these 3 days, right, especially pre-full moon, because full moons are all about releases, right? You haven't addressed it. Pluto, it could kind of hit you in the feels. It could kind of hit you in the wallet with Venus and Taurus, because Taurus, you know, being Venus ruled, Venus is love and Venus is money. So you could take big hits financially. There could be issues with stock market. There could be issues with e-currency like Bitcoin. There could be big losses for some people. For other people, they might have to tap into their savings for something, right? There could be different medical things that come up. So just be aware, especially if you do have significant placements in Aqua or Taurus, or even Leo or Scorpio, right? Around 2, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, because you're going to be in exact squares and oppositions, and that's going to create T-square / Grand Cross energy with your chart. So if you have early fixed sign placements, don't be surprised or shocked. Just know that if the universe removed it, or is causing something to happen, it's either because it was not meant for you, it wasn't meant to be in your high alignment moving forward, you don't need it moving forward. And if it has to do with people or individuals and you're getting some really bad news, to you, right? It might be really bad news to you as far as love or money. Trust that if it is meant to come into alignment with you at some point, it will. It's probably got some healing process that it needs to go through first. That's the 8th to the 10th. Also, with the moon in Scorpio squaring Mars and Leo, certain attachments that you have to certain people, especially if it's like an ego thing, especially if you did invest a lot of time, money, energy, resource, sacrificed relationships for certain things. Scorpio moon square Mars and Leo. If someone's pride's been hurt or their ego's been hurt and they are inebriated or drinking, that energy is going to come out. The emotions could be really harsh. The communications could be harsh, and certain feelings are getting cut off. So it's possible that something or someone could say something that they can't take back, right? Instantly shuts off the emotions. Someone could do something real 0 to 100, possibly, you know, even explosive with their emotions, and it can't be undone. And as the moon moves into Sag and trines Saturn and Neptune, the path forward is the path forward from there. Okay. Exact Mars in Leo, trine Chiron and Aries. This is where you stand up for yourself and heal yourself. This is the prelude to the full moon in Sag. On the 11th of June, with the full moon in Sag at near peak of Jupiter in Cancer, square Saturn and Neptune in Aries, right? The moon and Jupiter are in mutual reception. So the moon, which is Cancer ruled, is in Sag, and Jupiter, which is Sag ruled, is in Cancer. They're in mutual reception. So those of you who have stronger significant Cancerian energy or Sag energy, like myself, are going to be feeling this full moon way strong. Way strong. All right. This is going to with its square Saturn and Neptune, Jupiter in Cancer, right? Square to Saturn and Neptune. Because we're in that peak period. The peak is on the 15th, and this is the 11th. So anything divine order with the self, right? That's healing. Jupiter is going to crack it at an emotional level. It's going to be really positive, okay? It's going to be really positive, like a lucky break. It's going to be like a lucky break. It just won't necessarily feel that way. Saturn is not fluffy. Okay? Saturn's not fluffy, but it is going to be a lucky break. And as the moon enters Capricorn, I think it's going to bring this real sense of seriousness in, because the moon in Capricorn is also going to square Saturn and Neptune in Aries. And I think it's going to come with a sense of responsibility. It's going to come with a sense of responsibility. Jupiter in Cancer, it creates a T-square, right? It creates a T-square from Cancer to Aries to Capricorn, right? Cardinal energy. Which means the way you do things is going to be challenged, or something might not sit right with you. Something might not sit right with you. It actually might really bother you. Things that are said, especially because Sag has like foot and mouth syndrome, even though, to be fair, Sag knows what is proper to say and not to say. They just don't care, right? They'll say it anyway. They'll say it how it is anyway. Sag might end up being that full moon, right? Things might be said from a very deeply emotional place that need to be said, but it's going to challenge the control and the ego of other people and the delusion of other people. And they're not going to respond well, right? You're challenging their control. You're challenging their quote unquote leadership. You know, you're challenging their actions and expressing how you feel about it. Certain things might come up with that full moon in Sag that are uncomfortable to discuss, but do absolutely need to be talked about, because, you know, like we said at the very beginning of the live, unless you could deal with it for the next 30 years, happily deal with it for the next 30 years, something's got to give. And that's either the situation itself or what's causing discomfort in the situation so that you can actually continue forward in it. I don't think anybody is willing to sacrifice who they are in their highest light. And if people have been kind of put in these divine detours, they're finally getting back on track with the full moon. It's not going to be a comfortable full moon. I'm telling you guys right now. I wouldn't necessarily, if you've got placements inside those degrees, and we'll go more over the full moon on the 11th when we do the moon event. We'll go over it more. You know, we'll do a cosmic currency for the full moon in Sag in detail. But depending on where your placements are, I wouldn't travel that day. I wouldn't travel that day. I would stay home. I would be inside that self-nurturing kind of energy. Self-nurturing, especially if you have strong Cancer or Sag placements. It is going to get serious. You know, once all the crazy happens, the moon in Capricorn is going to be pretty somber, and it's going to put things on a very serious note, and things are going to have to be dealt with, right? Capricorn moon is all about delegating and getting things done so that success is imminent, and it's going to be very serious. So the 11th, expect some kind of climactic communication or happening that needs to be dealt with in a very serious manner. It can't be ignored, right? It definitely can't be ignored. As we move into the 12th through the 15th, it's the sun in Gemini exact square the nodes in Pisces and Virgo. Mars in Leo is squaring Uranus and Taurus, and the moon enters Aqua on the 14th, conjunct Pluto retrograde. From the 12th to the 15th, the squares are in full swing. Okay. Those squares from Jupiter in Cancer to Saturn and Neptune, and Uranus and Taurus to Mars in Leo. Let's just say, for the people who thought they could ignore it, no, the shitstorm continues. The shitstorm continues after the full moon, okay? I wish I had better news, but I don't. The astrology is the astrology. I think all kinds of things are going to come out with the sun and Gemini square the nodes. Some things are going to be very real and matter of fact, like facts that you can rely on to move forward. And then there's other things that are going to be completely made up or delulu, or seriously delulu. When you start talking about the sun in square to the nodes, that's who you are, right? The sun is the character. The sun is the character that you put on. And you can't be the character that you once were, right? The South Node in Virgo is challenging who you are to erase the facets of the self that might be petty and hypercritical of the self. You can't be hypercritical of yourself with the square. You have to accept that maybe you did the best you could with the knowledge that you had at the time, and moving forward from a more spiritual place, you can reconnect with your higher self. And it might be difficult, right? That's square to the nodes. It might feel difficult to reconnect with your higher self if you are being hard on yourself for the version that you were when you were less informed with the choices that you were making, right? Mars and Leo square Uranus and Taurus, things are going to get cut off. Things out of alignment are going to get cut off. And as the moon enters Aqua on the 14th and conjuncts Pluto, that's extreme and intense detachment. Extreme and intense detachment. People might even be disassociating from life a little bit. People may need to be in their own space, might not want to be around other people because of all of this internal processing that's going on. Because everything that just transpired is like a huge slap into reality. A huge slap into reality. Like where people were at the very beginning of the month and where people are by the time we get to the 15th. Some people are going to be going through what feels like a complete rewrite of the reality they thought they knew. Like the people in their life that they thought they knew, the situations they thought they had under control, the situations that they thought were going to move forward in their favor. They're in a completely different place now, right? All kinds of things have come to the surface over the last 2 weeks in the beginning of June. And I think people are pissed. At the very least, on the inside, they're pissed. They might be so pissed on the inside that they are shutting down on the outside, because if they were to actually let that anger out, they wouldn't like who they are, right? They wouldn't like who they are. So people might be a little tight-lipped with what they're thinking and what they're feeling, because if they were to speak on it, it could get ugly, right? Now, on the 16th of June, the moon transits into Pisces, trine the sun in Gemini and Jupiter in Cancer. The sun is at the end of Gemini, right? Jupiter is still fresh in Cancer. When the moon enters Pisces on the 16th, on the low end, depending on what other placements are going on, right? If you've got mutable squares and things like that going on with the moon in Pisces, there could be a little bit of feeling sorry for the self. The plus side is there is room to fix it, right? There is room to fix it. You can choose to nurture the reality in a way that sets you up to achieve the way you want to feel in the future. You may also have some pretty intense dreams that could put you in the right direction if you don't look at it like it's just a dream, right? If you are dealing with the moon in Pisces, especially if you're a natal Pisces moon, you could definitely have some very real advice given to you via dream state about how to move in a direction to feel better about your life in retrospect. You know, like if you were to take actions now, looking back in hindsight 20 years from now, you'd be really glad you made the choice the way you did, because it would have set you in a direction of great benefit to heed it, right? To heed it. On the 17th of June, Mars enters Virgo, sextile Jupiter in Cancer, and quincunx Saturn and Neptune in Aries. So Mars is shifting. Hey, Kristen. Mars is shifting on the 17th. We're going to lose that fiery Leo energy. It's going to move into Virgo. Now, Mars and Virgo really, really like detrimentally hypercritical of the self. It could beat up the self so bad, right? When things are not right. Mars and Virgo can also get really upset when things are not the way they should be or the way that they would want them to be in order to make everything flow smoothly. Anything out of alignment or anything out of place, out of order in the energy, Mars and Virgo is not happy, right? It's actually a really difficult placement for Mars. So much so, like Mars is in detriment in Libra, right? Opposite its home sign of Aries. But the way it feels in Virgo, I think sometimes is even more challenging. Yeah, because Virgo is a perfectionist. Exactly, Kristen. Virgo's a perfectionist. And when things are not perfect and things start to throw curveballs in there, like Mars and Virgo can get super irritable and acts out big time. With it being sextile to Jupiter in Cancer and quincunx to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Quincunxes are wild cards. Jupiter in Cancer is sextiling it, pushing for people to love the self, pushing for people to nurture the self, pushing for people to hold compassion, especially for the house that Cancer rules for you, like whatever area of life that is. If something's out of alignment, I think Saturn and Neptune are going to throw that curveball to get you back in it. Like, just in case you're the problem, like just in case it's you that is the problem and making things not perfect for other people. And there's things that you could improve upon. I think Saturn and Neptune is going to throw that nice little curve like, hey, hey, you. It's not everybody else, right? It's not just everybody else. Like, there's things that you can improve on too. The universe is being particular, right? 99% is not 100. It's being particular. If something's out of alignment, tempers could flare, energy could be a little volatile, or people could snap or be sharp or snippy, different things. And if someone is in that mood, it's probably best you just stay away from them. It's probably best you just stay away from them on the 17th and maybe just go find your vibe doing your own thing separate from them. On June 18th, the moon enters Aries conjunct Saturn and Neptune. When your feelings align with Saturn, it is very stoic. And with Neptune, it can feel diluted. It can feel diluted. You could feel washed out, burnt out. And I think if the 17th was a really intense day, the 18th is going to feel almost like the fire's been extinguished. That Saturn, Neptune, it feels like it feels drained. It feels drained on the 18th. And I think that especially if you do have like stronger significant Aries placements within those first 5 degrees, even at the end of Pisces, right? If you've got like a 28, 29 degree Pisces placement, I do think you're just going to kind of be gassed out. I think you're going to feel like there's things that you need to do. You're going to feel that push, that drive to get things done. You just might not have it in you. So just don't be hard on yourself on the 18th if you have so much to do and just don't have the energy to do it. You might need to wait until the 19th, or as the moon kind of gets away from Saturn and Neptune. On the 20th and the 21st, the sun enters Cancer, right? We have that solstice energy. And it's squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's conjunct Jupiter, who is sextile with Mars and Virgo. That's exact on the 22nd. Okay, that's coming up within the next couple days of this transit. When the sun enters Cancer, squaring Neptune and Saturn. Sun-Saturn squares, Sun-Neptune squares. Like, let's not get it twisted. Whoever is dealing with that energy, it's going to be all about them. It's going to be all about them. There's not going to be much consideration for other people. There's not going to be much consideration for other people. Matter of fact, the Jupiter-Sun conjunction might be so powerful that it's off-putting, right? That could be off-putting. Sextile to Mars and Virgo, right? Jupiter. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. If you want it done right, you got to do it yourself. Don't look at other people or be harsh on other people because they didn't do something that you wanted them to do, that they had no desire to do from the beginning. You know, if you were putting something off on people or holding a certain expectation for them to meet. You know, you wanted it done a certain way and thought you gave crystal clear instructions and it's not the way you wanted, and it was important. If it was that important, like maybe you should have done it yourself. Maybe you should have done it yourself then. You know, it's kind of like, and it's what I tell, it's how I run my house here with my son. Like, if it bothers you, you fix it. If it bothers you, you fix it. If the trash is full and it's bothering you that it's not taken out, don't yell at somebody else and tell them to take it out. Just take the fucking trash out. It bothered you. You fix it, you know? It's like putting it off on someone else, all these different things that you want fixed, and then being upset when they either didn't do it or didn't fix it right. Like, if it bothers you, you fix it. I think you'd be better off in that energy. And if you don't have time to do it all, well, then either you have to let it not bother you until you do have time, or you need to reprioritize your shit. You might need to reprioritize. Mars in Virgo, quincunx Saturn and Neptune might demand that you reprioritize. Especially if you do need time to focus on yourself. Mercury in Cancer is going to trine the North Node in Pisces. The moon's going to enter Taurus on the 20th and conjunct Venus on the 21st. Thinking about how you want to feel and holding a vibration of gratitude for what you do have and what you have experienced is the best alignment that you could take moving forward on the solstice. This is about looking at the bright side and taking what you can from your experiences moving forward and learning how to apply that wisdom to better serve you. Learning how to apply that wisdom to better serve you as a soul. As a soul. If things haven't sat right in your soul and you've put yourself through a lot, tolerating things, bending and breaking yourself for things, this is really going to help you find some kind of peace or beauty in the discord, right? That's transpired. That's the solstice energy. And I might just do a whole full live on the solstice in and of itself when we get closer to that date. I think I will, because that's a big one. I'm going to go over that in more detail on the 20th to 21st for the solstice. What I do want to talk about is on the 21st to the 23rd. We have a pentagram in the sky. We have a pentagram in the sky. I actually took a screenshot of it just so you could see what it looks like. That's the 22nd. There's the outer aspects, and then there's the inner aspects. Hey, Christina. How you doing? The pentagram in the sky. The outer aspects. Pluto is sextiling Saturn and Neptune. Saturn and Neptune are squaring the Sun and Jupiter. The Sun and Jupiter are sextiling Mars and Virgo. Mars and Virgo is squaring Lilith and Sag, and Lilith and Sag is sextiling Pluto. Those are the outer aspects. There's 3 yods going on with this energy as well. Big, big, big energy. Now, what's encapsulating all of this? Spirit, the universe, source, God, creator, whatever you want to call it. The cosmos aren't going to cut any slack. It's divine protection. Okay. It's divine protection. Whenever you have a pentagram like that in the sky, it's divine protection. So the universe is looking at the vibration of the collective. It's looking at the challenges the collective is having as far as loving the self and healing the self. Spirit knows what to do and what actions to take to perfection. And that means radically shifting into future sight and what the prediction, quote unquote, is, right? If you were to have prophecy about your own life, like there is a really good chance on the 22nd, from the 21st to the 23rd, that you will have visions of your future should you stay on a certain path. You could have visions of your future should you move towards a different path. If not both, right? You could actually be getting serious downloads or flashes of insight that allow you to see where you're going to end up should you choose certain things. This is collective. Spirit is looking at humanity on the whole, as we are all connected, right? It's looking at humanity on the whole. It's seeing the issues within the self, and it does know what to do in order to fix it and nurture it and shift and change perception of character, who we are and what we're doing and what we're choosing. There's going to be major shifts, and it's going to come in the form of what feels like revelation about the future, where you're going to be having visions about if you do or don't do certain things, like where you could potentially end up in the manifestation and what that outcome looks like, right? The inner aspects, we've got 3 yods. We've got the sextile from the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer to Mars in Virgo, with the apex of Pluto in Aqua. Okay, that's the first yod. Yods are the finger of God, right? That's their nickname. They're coined the finger of God. That's what a yod is. It points in the direction that God would put you in. There's 3 different ways to hit this mark. Like Spirit is giving us 3 different ways to hit the mark and follow the divine's direction. The first one is the sextile, the base of Cancer and Virgo to Pluto and Aqua. The second yod is the sextile from Pluto to Lilith, with the apex of the Sun and Jupiter in Cancer. That's the direction. The third yod is the sextile from Pluto to Saturn and Neptune in Aries, with Mars as the apex of the yod. So let's talk about these 3 yods. The first one, the base, is knowing how you want to feel and what you need to do to feel that way, and accepting with extreme detachment that when you act in your highest good to nurture the self and do what you need to do to divine perfection, everything else will fall into place. That's the mindset. No guilt, no shame, no regret. Trust that everybody, that Spirit will move them wherever they need to go in their highest good, that you can move forward with extreme detachment, that you are not responsible for the outcome of other people's lives or their happiness. You are simply just responsible for your own happiness. And when you nurture yourself and take those steps to be in that higher vibration, you allow everybody to find their own path and their highest good and their happiness, right? Like an example, if you are in an unhappy relationship or a relationship of convenience or obligation and you're not happy, well, the people that you're in a relationship with probably aren't happy either. If it's not your highest good path to be with them, then it's not their highest good path to be with you either. So if you choose your highest path, you free them to their highest path. Will they be upset when you choose it? Sure. Are they going to feel like they don't know what end is up or they don't know where they're going? Yeah. Pluto's not comfortable. But the reality is Spirit knows the steps and will put them where they need to go. And you don't actually need to feel guilt about choosing yourself. That's the first yod. If it's in your highest alignment, your highest good ripples to everybody else, and they will end up in their highest alignment as well, unless they choose otherwise, right? Unless they choose to go back into karmic cycles from the release of you, right? People have free will. They can choose what they want. But you freed yourself up and gave them the opportunity to do the same. The second yod, with the sextile from Pluto to Lilith, apex being the sun and Jupiter in Cancer. If you do have those visions, those radical visions about the future, right? Future potential, future detriments, and all of this stuff, you absolutely can see what your best version of self looks like when you are in your highest vibration and your highest manifestation. You can actually see yourself happy. You can see yourself at peace. You can see yourself nurtured. You can see yourself nurturing and loving again, right? If you've maybe been out of that vibration for a while, if you've been kind of cold and cut off, if you've been a little intense, if you feel this itch to just get the fuck out of wherever you are, you know, which Lilith and Sag can do, to rebel, right? And just radically move, you might radically move. You might just up and move. And that would be in high alignment in order to love the new self that you want to create. Maybe you just need a fresh start. Maybe you just need to go somewhere where not everybody knows you. You know, maybe you just need to go somewhere where not everybody is judging you and just start fresh. That's a possibility. If you feel guided to do that, that would be in high alignment. That is a yod, direction of God, right? That you can take, where you just radically shift and move. You will be so glad that you did, right? You'll be glad that you did. The third yod, which is probably the most uncomfortable yod, but divine direction nonetheless, is with Pluto in Aquarius sextile Saturn and Neptune in Aries, quincunxing, aiming at the apex Mars in Virgo. This feels like looking at who you are in the mirror and not recognizing yourself, the person that you've become. It feels like seeing your reflection and wondering how you got here, how you made it to this hellscape of a vibration where who you were in memories that you have that are, you know, you're fond of yourself, right? Good memories, how far you've come from there. And not necessarily in a good way. It's like how far you've fallen from the highest order of yourself, the highest vibration of yourself, and feeling this kick in the ass to get back on track and re-perfect the self, right? Hey, don't drink the Kool-Aid. How you doing? Yeah. So that yod, people might be looking in the mirror at themselves and hating themselves so bad that they have to shift, right? It's a self-loathing that serves the self in pushing the self to get back to a version that they feel good about, to re-perfect the self, right? The divine desire and drive to be perfect, quote unquote, perfect again, to seek it out, right? To seek out the perfection of the self, because looking in the mirror, you don't like what you see. That's the third yod. So if you're having those experiences between the 21st and the 23rd, when we have this pentagram in the sky, like the universe is giving you these outer aspects because it knows what humanity needs on the whole to make progress, And it's giving 3 different divine doors, 3 different directions to take in order to achieve it. Okay, that's big. The moon also transits into Gemini on the 22nd. So you take the moon in Gemini and throw that into the mix. People are going to be analyzing their feelings. They're going to be looking at it like facts. This is how I feel. This is what caused the way I feel. This is how I want to feel. This is what needs to go if I want to feel this way, right? Looking at it as a very matter of fact, almost like a pros cons list. You know, Gemini is big on writing and communication. It's like having a communication with your emotions. And it's like, okay, this is the reality. What are the pros, cons of my reality in terms of how it makes me feel? So it would be a great 2-3 days to do that pros cons list with yourself, especially if you journal, or even if you don't. You just might want to go through that and do a pros cons of where you are, you know, and what is going on in your life that causes the feelings you have. That's the 21st to the 23rd. The 24th is mostly just that energy starting to dissipate. It lingers for a good 3 days, and it does start to dissipate on the 24th with no other real aspects popping off. It's kind of just digesting that energy. Okay. On the 25th, we have the new moon in Cancer, conjunct Jupiter in square to Saturn and Neptune in Aries. It's quincunxing Pluto retrograde in Aqua and sextiling Mars in Virgo and semi-square Venus in Taurus. New moons are clean slates. So after we just went through that pentagram right in the sky for those 3 days with a 4th day to kind of sit on it, the 25th is the new moon, or the clean slate, where we really can step into this energy. So if you did the work, it's going to be a lot easier. If you didn't do the work, you're gonna, because it's square. It's square. The sun and the moon, right? It's a new moon. They're conjunct with Jupiter in Cancer, squaring Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Those 3 vibrations together are going to overrule, right, the Saturn and Neptune energy. Anything of divine order that needs to heal, anything that needs to be nurtured from the self to the emotions, it's going to be magnified in a huge way. The pain is going to get put out one way or another, right? One way or another, the pain's going to get put out. Felt what feels like for the last time, right, as we're moving through these transits. The closer we get to the end of June, the closer we get to that square that Jupiter is having with Saturn and Neptune, the closer we get to moving out of that transit. It's going to feel a lot lighter as we get towards the end of June, and it's going to continue to lighten up as we move into July. Know that if you have strong and significant Cancerian placements, this is a whole new rise of compassion and empathy and intuitive attunement, right? You're going to be really in touch with your feelings and the feelings of others, the energy in the room, and what needs to get done. Anything that would go up against you and try causing you pain, especially as you're coming into this new energy, is going to get shut down. It's not going to like getting shut down, but it's going to get shut down. And it could come with some kind of small loss, not huge losses, unless you yourself have big energy where Venus is in Taurus, because the semi-square to Venus, you're either going to take a love hit or a money hit, right? And it might cost you a little bit to write something in your life or your path, which, you know, if you got to let go of it, you got to let go of it. If it costs you a little bit, it costs you a little bit. Sometimes taking a small loss now is going to save you a much bigger loss later. And so it might come with, you know, a slight cost depending on the house that Cancer rules for you, because that's where the biggest transformation is going to be. It's going to be in that house that Cancer rules. So if you don't know your chart, you should definitely take the time to look it up. Yeah. Perfect timing. Yeah. Okay. So things are going to get knocked out. Like I said, small losses might happen. You might incur some small losses, but I think it'll be worth it in the long run. And if you feel like you're reading somebody's thoughts, you're probably right. So don't doubt yourself. You might hear their thoughts so clearly, you might think they said it out loud. Trust what your spiritual ears hear. Okay. On the 25th. And we'll go more into the new moon in Cancer when it comes up. We'll do a cosmic currency for the new moon. All right, on the 25th of June. For June 26th to the 28th, there's an exact Mercury in Cancer sextile Uranus and Taurus. Mercury enters Leo, and the moon enters Leo. It's going to be an exact Mercury in Leo trine Saturn and Neptune in Aries. Mercury in Leo is going to oppose Pluto in Aquarius. Lots of fiery energy. I think that exact trine from Mercury in Cancer to Uranus and Taurus on the 26th as we go into the 28th with all that fire, right? Mercury and fire, moon and fire, all that stuff. I feel there are certain things that may come in to help you. Someone might hold some compassion and gift you something or aid you in some way that benefits you moving forward with what you want to do. And I think it could really inspire you to think in terms of capable, to think in terms of ability and your strengths, right? Feeling empowered to get done things that you need to get done, empowered to move forward. I feel that if certain things had been standing in your way, those things are going to be removed, right? The blocks might be removed, especially in terms of money or finances. I think that you could have some kind of income blessing. It could be something small, it could be something bigger, but if you're in need of something, some kind of a financial blessing is going to come through that's going to bring some peace to the soul. And it is going to inspire you to think in terms of, I can do this, right? Spirit's on my side. I got this. It's possible, right? Really motivational energy coming out of the new moon on the 26th to the 28th. With Mercury in Leo, we really are in this vibe of taking control of our thoughts, taking control of those who we are responsible for, and handling it with a sense of pride and responsibility. And I think it's great energy on the 26th to the 28th. As we move into the 29th and the 30th, ending the month, the sun in Cancer is exact quintile to Chiron in Aries and sextile the moon and Mars conjunction in Virgo. The 29th, the moon enters Virgo. Okay. With the quintiles are a harmonic, and it's a great change, and it's spiritual in nature. The sun in Cancer, quintile Chiron in Aries. It's almost as if you get this blip of vibration, and you know what it's like to be in that feeling of loving yourself. Even if you've never felt like you've loved yourself before, maybe you've hated yourself for a long time, right? Self-loathing, maybe you felt like shit or whatever for a long time. Maybe people have put you down your whole life. From the 29th to the 30th, the alignments that happen remind you of how lovable you actually are and how necessary you being you was for things to take place. Because if you weren't that way, if you weren't who you were, whether you were in your highest of highs or your lowest of lows, it was all divine. And there's this moment collectively where people appreciate who they were, because it got them and other people to where they are, and helping them get to where they're going. You know, the moon and Mars conjunct in Virgo, the moon is helping, the moon is helping that really frustrated critic within the self. It's kind of washing it out a little bit, like telling it to cool off. You know, like, can you just not be so hard on yourself? And it's feeling sympathy almost for the self. It's like people might really go through this vibration of, wow, I've been so hard on myself, and I'm really not that bad. Like, yeah, I'm not perfect, but that's okay. You know, and I think people might even be reflecting on their dynamics and their relationships with their mother a little bit, because the moon is maternal. And because there's all of this, you know, gratitude energy going on with the quintile, it might even be having an appreciation for your mother in a way that maybe you haven't before. Seeing that there is such a place of gratitude that you can find from maybe your darker experiences with your mom, and being appreciative that maybe you aren't that way, right? That you found a version of yourself that you genuinely love, because you are the opposite of things that you did not love. And that maybe you're figuring it out. It's okay to not be perfect because you didn't have a good example, right? You didn't have the best of examples, and you're trying to figure it out on the fly in life, how to be better than what you've experienced. And I feel like the end of the month ends with big release. I feel like that's big release, like spiritual weight. And I think it's really welcomed. You know, it's a really welcome thing. And I think people are going to be paying more attention to how they feel and what they need to do to feel better. And maybe putting their foot down with other people who are asking them to, you know, serve them to their own sacrifice, right? To your own sacrifice. It's like, no, I would love to help you, and maybe any other day I would help you, but today I really am just focusing on myself and doing what I need to do, and not being so hard on yourself that you're not there making everything perfect for everybody else, right? That wraps up the month of June. Now, I did want to write the note to self, right? Taurus and Aqua, those signs are square, and they're connected to manifestations in the stock market, right? Uranus, Saturn, and Venus. Throughout the month of June. I think if you are invested in the stock market or Bitcoin and things like that, just know that there might be some really wild fluctuations. And if you do have some money to invest, if certain stocks or certain e-currency dip, treat yourself while the prices are low, because they're going to rebound. They're going to rebound, okay? So take advantage of it if you can. All right. That wraps up this live. If you are a member here on the channel, you're a Pineapple patron, I'm going to get ready to do some personal insights for my members, kind of look at their charts and what they might be going through throughout the month of June if they have certain questions that come up. All right, I'm going to do that. And I hope all this information benefits you guys, especially in hindsight. And as we do go through, you know, the different days, maybe I'll timestamp all the different days so you guys can pop in and recheck, you know, the energies of those days as we go through the month of June. Kind of keep on track and know that, yeah, you're welcome. You're welcome. And kind of, yeah, just know that this is the vibe, and it too shall pass, and things are working out in your favor all the time. I think that's the big reminder, right? So I know I'm going to be replaying it myself. So I'm going to wrap this up. I'm going to set the live for our channel members. It will be a members only video. So if you are not a member, you won't be able to watch it. You can sign up and review it, the replay, later if you do sign up as a member later. Okay, you will have access to it as a member. With that, I love you. I hope to have served you well, and I will see all of my beautiful Pineapple patrons in a little bit. Bye, everybody.